Welcome to a special report from the Human Error News Network. I'm your Maritime Safety Inspector, and I've got a question for you right out of the gate. What if doing exactly what you're told, following the rules to the letter, is exactly what guarantees a catastrophic failure? Think about it. You follow the rules, you trust the engineering, you sign off on the paperwork, right? We all do. But what happens when that official manual completely misses a massive real-world variable? We're about to unpack a case where the paperwork said one thing and physics, well, physics had a totally different plan. Before we dive into how to spot this exact trap in your own industry, I want you to hold on to that thought. And hey, if identifying these hidden operational vulnerabilities is something you care about, take a quick second to hit subscribe. So take a look at the 56-meter Bayesian. Built back in 2008, it boasted the world's tallest aluminum mast. We're talking 72 meters of metal reaching into the sky. The builder's CEO praised this vessel as one of the safest boats on the planet, literally calling it unsinkable. Unsinkable. It's kind of like the Titanic all over again, right? We all use systems at work that we think are totally bulletproof. But on the night of August 19th, 2024, while anchored off the coast of Sicily, this multi-million-dollar Titan ended up at the bottom of the sea. Okay, let's actually dive into the mechanics here, because the sheer speed of this disaster is just mind-blowing. It's where that whole unsinkable illusion totally shatters. You know, we all fall into the trap of routine compliance, but get this, it took a mere 15 seconds for this massive, state-of-the-art system to violently heel over 90 degrees. 15 seconds. That's less time than it takes to pour a cup of coffee. That leaves absolutely zero time for even a highly seasoned crew to recover. Now, before we uncover the exact mechanics of how to prevent something like this in your own operations, I need you to do a quick audit of your own comfort zone. Seriously, think about it. Because just like this crew, we often normalize risks simply because, well, we've executed the exact same procedure 1,000 times without a hitch. We tell ourselves, it's fine. We've seen this a million times before. Stepping back into my role as your lead inspector for a moment, let's look at the actual layout of the Bayesian. What you need to understand is how technical limits fatally clashed with operational decisions that night. You've got these critical down-flooding points, vents, access hatches, that are perfectly safe under normal conditions. But when things go sideways, they instantly transform into a fatal trap. And right away, we run into a massive, startling conflict. I want to present both sides of this fairly because, well, this is where investigations always get incredibly messy. On one side of the ring, the manufacturer's CEO is absolutely adamant that the boat suffered indescribable, unreasonable errors by the crew, basically implying someone must have left the doors open. But on the flip side, Italian prosecutors are actually investigating the captain for negligent shipwreck, arguing that the crew totally underestimated the weather and failed to initiate proper pre-storm protocols. But wait, here is the piece of the puzzle that changes the stakes entirely. Listen to this direct quote regarding the captain's mindset. He noted that he had anchored in 60-knot winds before without a single issue. His reliance on that past routine, it completely blinded him to a hidden physics trap buried deep within the ship's own documentation. It just goes to show past success is honestly the greatest enemy of future vigilance. The real key to understanding this whole disaster actually lies in the ship's rulebook. Every large vessel out there is governed by its SIB, or Stability Information Booklet. It dictates the exact parameters for safe operation, including something called the down-floating angle. For the Bayesian, that was around 40 to 45 degrees. Basically, that's the exact tilt where water starts pouring into the ventilation systems, making recovery mathematically impossible. Game over. Well, the UK's Marine Accident Investigation Branch dug into that rulebook and they uncovered something genuinely terrifying. While sailing, the ship's massive 60-ton centerboard absolutely had to be lowered for stability. But, and here is the fatal flaw, the manual actually allowed that centerboard to be raised while at anchor. So, by following the manual to the letter, the crew unknowingly stripped the ship of its stability, drastically slashing their safety margins right as a sudden squall hit. Let's pause for a second, because this number right here is the mathematical threshold of disaster. The investigators calculated that a steady gust of just 63.4 knots striking the side of the ship with that centerboard raised, it makes recovery impossible. At 63.4 knots, the wind catching that enormous 72-meter mast literally forces the ship past its angle of vanishing stability. There is no coming back from that. So, what does this all mean? The chilling reality is that the vulnerabilities to these specific wind limits were entirely missing from the safety manual, completely absent. The SIB had all these fancy curves for safe operating ranges in squalls while sailing, sure, but absolutely nothing for the motoring condition without sails. The crew was flying totally blind. They were fully compliant with the manual that literally lacked the data to warn them about the impending danger of their operational choices. And this weather radar brilliantly illustrates what they were actually up against. As a sudden mesocyclonic supercell rolled in, meteorological studies indicated there were potential localized downdrafts exceeding 87 knots. The crew's assumption that this was just a standard, manageable squalls became a fatal miscalculation, simply because the environment exceeded a structural threshold they didn't even know existed. By the way, if this kind of root cause analysis is helping you spot potential flaws in your own systems, now's a great time to hit that subscribe button. Okay, let's trace this timeline together to see how a totally routine night cascades into an unrecoverable disaster. At 3:55 a.m., the wind hits 30 knots. By 3:57, the anchor starts dragging. At 4 a.m., the captain is woken up. And at 4:06 a.m., just 11 minutes after that initial 30-knot warming, the vessel heels 90 degrees. In a crisis, time compresses, and this crew ran out of it incredibly fast. Now contrast that with the neighboring yacht, the Sir Robert Baden-Powell. They experienced the exact same crazy conditions, but they managed to apply engine power, steer directly into the wind, and survive the whole ordeal. The Bayesian, however, got hit broadside and tilted so incredibly fast that the crew couldn't even activate the engines in time to counter the massive aerodynamic drag of that record-breaking aluminum mast. So we need to bridge this gap between all these competing theories. You've got the prosecutors blaming the crew's emergency response times, the manufacturer blaming the crew for supposedly leaving a door open, and the MAIB pointing to a massive design blind spot in the stability documentation. But for us, the ultimate lesson here isn't just about pointing fingers. It's about detecting when your manual fundamentally does not match the reality of your environment. That's why I'm giving you a roadmap right now to audit your own operations. Step 1. Stop trusting the manual implicitly. You have to look for what's missing, not just what's printed on the page. Step 2. Start drilling for localized worst-case scenarios. Remember, surviving 60-knot winds in the past does not guarantee survival in 65-knot winds today. And step 3. Identify exactly where your technical limits restrict human action. Because if a system fails in 15 seconds, human response time is totally irrelevant. This official MAIB finding right here proves the entire core thesis of our explainer today. It states point blank that these vulnerabilities were unknown to either the owner or the crew. Let that sink in. Even if you follow the book perfectly, even if you are a seasoned hardcore professional, you literally cannot correct a human error if the system itself is hiding the structural threshold of disaster. This has been a special report from the Human Error News Network. I'm urging you to take a hard look and interrogate those unsinkable illusions in your own workplace right now, before the storm actually hits. Because when your routine operations are suddenly struck by an unpredictable, high-stakes variable, what missing page in your safety manual are you going to wish you had read?